Welcome. In today's episode, I'm going to explain what the alpha male and beta male mean. The terms alpha male and beta male are contractual terms. In practice, there is no solid example of what the alpha looks like because it is about certain traits, including the character and behavior that this contractual individual manifests and represents itself. In a male-female relationship, when we talk about alpha males, we are talking about behavior that is dominant and superior to the rest of the community. All this talk about equality and what kind of guys women like is a fairy tale for good kids. Hypergamy causes women not to be excited about equal men. Of course, they can close their eyes, bite their teeth, and sleep with an unattractive guy, but they do it to get something. He talks about this game theory and Briffault's law. The manifestations of dominance in the human world are reduced to four aspects: physical, mental, economic, and social. Let's look at the first one, the physical one. It is for this reason that women like tall and fit men, because when they are big, they are more likely to physically dominate other males and thus find themselves at the top of the social hierarchy. In ancient times, the strongest became the leader of his group, thus building hierarchy through struggle and domination. Nowadays, the aspect of physical domination over the human herd in the context of the individual, due to cultural and legal constraints, should not be so important but still is. That is, at least theoretically. You cannot imply subduing people by beating them and thus forcing obedience, although the protests and police reactions suggest otherwise. This atavism in women, that is, the desire of the dominant male, works very strongly. The instinct in the form of hypergamy requires you to look for the strongest available man, or at least if others are inaccessible for various reasons, it is stronger than themselves. It is for this reason that ladies do not want inferior partners. Theoretically, they explain that it looks bad, and especially when they put the pins, but such a translation is only rationalization. The real reasons are different. If a woman is taller or taller than a man, it subconsciously means that she is stronger than him. The argument about the ugly appearance of such a couple in company or pictures is only a rationalization of the inner unpleasant feeling that a woman will feel with a lower, supposedly unattractive man. Just as the unpleasant feeling a man will have with a visually unattractive woman, this is the same biological mechanism. The rest is just rationalization. Think for a moment, if women don't like men who are smaller than them because they're supposed to look bad as a couple when she's taller than him, then the same caliber argument would be to say that you do not want to date ladies who are thicker than you because that would also look bad and you'll be good with it. Say yes, and then you will be attacked by a female, and not only that, after all, appearance doesn't matter and the most important thing is the interior, and you are a prostitute. And in general, how dare you think so? Well, right now, after all, we have equality, so you may not like certain individuals. You have the same right to it as gentlemen, but then you will see that this privilege will be denied to you because it is not about equality. This example clearly shows that this is a false excuse and rationalization because you may not want to date a man unattractive to her, and you no longer. For you, the interior is important, not the appearance. And so such a position by women is just an argument to rationalize your inner feelings in case of lack of excitement, or even from the times that a lady can feel with a weak male. As long as you can work on physical fitness, performance, and musculature. But if you have, for example, 170 centimeters in height, then you will do nothing about it. You will not add yourself in a magical way 20 centimeters. Remember, ladies tell you not to judge by appearance because the interior matters, but they themselves do it instinctively. After a few moments, they will know if a certain guy is attractive to them or not, and if they could sleep with him or not. You don't know it's different. The characteristics of the alpha male in the physical field are size and strength. It is an evolutionary mechanism that suggests that such a man will be a good defender because he can physically resist the aggression of other individuals and consequently provide the woman with protection and security. When a guy is physically strong, it means for the female reptile brain that he also has strong genes because they survived the evolutionary race. It also means that when children have their genes, they will also have a better chance of survival. That's when nature turns on women's excitement. Such a guy does not even have to have games. That is, the skills of flirting and stimulating female emotions. The women themselves will fly on it, in flight, laying off their legs. That's just how it works. Strength, including physical, causes excitement in women. It had to be, otherwise we'd survive as a species. Times have changed, and the evolutionary mechanism sits within us, as if we were still living in caves. Nowadays, the alpha male doesn't have to be a 2-foot gladiator, leading and then dominating. If he has a lot, or very much money, he will be able to hire such an individual who can hire such a player who will, for example, protect him or take care of hardworking matters for him. Money does not bring happiness, it is true, but it makes life much easier and more humble. They're a means of exchange. So if you have cash, You can have anything material. They'll even send you into space if you want to. A male who dominates financially can also impose obedience and submission on others in a very simple way. Again, it's about domination, but not with muscles, but with money. If you have enough of them, you can even influence the right. It's legal, and it's called lobbying. And there's even a law that allows it. The alpha male, who has money, most often also proves to be above average intelligence, cleverness, and even cunning. I don't say anything about the moral qualities he represented, I just say that most of the time he had to combine, and that very effectively. Typically, the most dominant individuals show more or less features from the dark triad, namely narcissism, Machiavellism, and psychopathy. In addition, it is safe to assume that he has also demonstrated social skills, such as the ability to negotiate, to behave with people, or to manipulate and blackmail. These are skills too. You can learn them. If you don't have them now, nothing is lost. It can be practiced, just like the biceps in the gym. Just remember that nothing will come and it takes time. Another feature that will come basically automatically when you get the money, it will be social status. People will automatically want to join you if they see you have something they want. In this case, it's about money. Do not boat. It will most often not be your friends, although maybe after a few years, in fact, will prove to be them, but most unfortunately not. They will be selfish. They will keep in touch with you only for their own temporary benefit, women as well as men. When you've got some money, most people will find it's worth it to work with you because maybe they'll get something out of it. This will automatically enlarge your social circle, that is, your acquaintances and influences. But when God forbid your legs will bend, they will disappear, because there will be no more benefits that they could draw from such a relationship. That's what happens most of the time. Get along with it and get used to it. That's the rules of the game. So the alpha male is simply a person who has physical or personality traits that make them able to subdue others. To better understand the concept of the alpha male, watch any wildlife program about wolves. You will learn how their hierarchy in the herd is organized and what characteristics the dominant wolf has. This is a classic example of an alpha male in a group. Then you will understand how the strongest wolf dominates and how the other individuals who are lower in the hierarchy treat the leader of the herd. In the case of wolves, the herd has a few or a dozen individuals, so it will be easier to understand this dynamic of the relationship to then transfer it to a $1 million population. The only, albeit very important difference is that there are millions of people in your country, and that makes the competition much bigger. This, paradoxically nowadays, and in conjunction with hypergamy, will be a problem for women, because they do not understand that just as males in a herd compete for access to females, they will have to compete with other females for access to the most valuable males. And time goes by. Every year, a younger competition is born. In addition, the wall is getting closer every year. The sooner you understand this, the less pain you will experience. These are the rules of the game. They are not fair, they are not romantic, but they are. 40 is not the new 20. Women feel that it is, but they have a problem with accepting the reality in this respect. Rich Cooper says women don't care about men coping with reality. They're waiting on the finish line to pick up the winners. The winner is alpha by definition because he's defeated all of his rivals. A beta male is simply a non-dominant, subordinate, or even submissive individual. Ladies at some point in their lives are looking for such men because a subordinate and non-dominant male is more likely for a woman to be able to control it and less likely to go to another. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he has no access to hot dogs. They fly after the dominant men. So there's a difference between loyalty and no choice. If no one is flirting with you and therefore you don't even have a chance to please the eye, that's not loyalty. It's a lack of options. It's different if you're adored and then you decide not to betray. It seems to me that most guys don't cheat just because there's no such possibility. It is risky to say that if they could, at least 95% of men would have benefited from this option at the beginning. It's our biology and our basic reproductive strategy. Now, good news. You can change your habits to become a more dominant guy. It requires working on yourself and changing your behavior, and consequently it will result in changes in your habits. Hence habits, because the way a person behaves, if he is not conscious, is controlled by his automatic mechanisms, that is, the habits. Habit is not just smoking cigarettes or being stressed. It is also the repetition of learned reactions and behaviors to repetitive stimuli in situations. The first thing you have to do is set your goal and then pursue it at all costs. Don't get distracted, and don't devote your attention to anything else. Of course, this is difficult because the distractors will be the whole mass, and at every step. And in addition, many people, especially women, will want to tell you how to live and what to do, but so that you meet them, not your goals. This is how these people project their beliefs outward, one important goal at a time. You set it up, and you strive to do it every day. It sounds simple, but when you start doing this, you'll see that it's hard and tiring. It's difficult because to do it, you'll have to get out of your comfort zone and face difficulties. And it won't be pleasant, which is why many people prefer to be guided. It's simpler and more convenient. It relieves from thinking and mentally from the consequences of its actions. But it's a trap because it sustains learned helplessness, or, as anyone prefers, a slave mentality. That's why I don't recommend this route. The choice, as usual, is yours. To turn into a more dominant man, you will also need to control yourself and, to be more precise, control of your emotional states and thoughts. When you are unable to control yourself, it will be difficult for you to consciously control your surroundings. For example, someone's rude opinion will very easily get you out of balance, and then you will lose cold blood and stop thinking logically. As a goal, you can put yourself in control of your reflexes, some behavior, or your impulses. In the beginning, it can be simple things, like refusing to eat sweets or not smoking a cigarette when you have a need. After some time, you will notice that you do not have to believe in your feelings and blindly follow them. It'll give you a choice, although I admit it's difficult. The third thing that approaches the attitude of the alpha male is the demand for self-respect and intolerance of its lack. If you do not respect yourself, no one else will respect you. Because sooner or later, they will feel or realize that you can impunely cross your boundaries, and then they will do so. I'll remind you, because it's important, for the friendly and humble guys it can be a problem, because intolerance or lack of appreciation for each other sooner or later will lead to some kind of quarrel or confrontation. This is inevitable, and the person who is in a relationship in the world simply doesn't like, or even is afraid of, a fight. But when you come out of him with a defensive hand, you will have personal success, which will show you that you can nevertheless not be fooled. And thanks to this, you will improve your self-confidence because you will find that you still have the power to defend your borders. The last tip I can give you from my experience is to treat yourself like a king, as if you were the most important person in the world. It's not about being narcissistic about the world, it's about putting yourself on a pedestal. When you get used to it, you won't let yourself be offended. Thanks to this part of the female tests will be banally simple for you to pass. And in addition to treating yourself well, over time, your self-esteem will automatically improve because you will start to believe that you too can be treated well. But first, you must treat yourself like that. This is an important point because society is programming boys to neglect their needs. It's worth getting to know the taste of being in the first place. When you see how the other side looks and tastes, you will be able to make a more conscious decision whether to be submissive or whether to treat yourself well and fulfill your dreams. Decide for yourself how to live. Be sure when you start doing that, you will be embarrassed about it. You will hear that you are selfish because you are pursuing your own happiness and fulfilling your own desires, not someone else's. Thinking this way will make you harder to control, and many people won't like it. So you need to know, and best experience, that you can behave that way. The alpha male does what he wants and doesn't take orders from others. There are also dark sides. Most criminals have dominant attributes to a very high degree, so be careful what you want because you can cross the border. The side effect of all this will be greater interest on the part of women because then you will no longer be so desperate and seeking recognition. You'll have your goals and you'll require respect for yourself. For women, it's attractive. If you haven't done this before, don't have any illusions. Changing habits will take at least a few months or a dozen months, and maybe years. To sum up, the so-called alpha male is a concept referring to individual traits that allow domination over other individuals. Whenever you hear them, you can imagine yourself as a leader in a wolf herd, the chief, commanding wolf, to whom other units are subordinated. If you do not behave in a dominant way, it will be a good conceptualization of what features the alpha male has and how it behaves. When you start to behave in a dominant way, that is, impose a so-called dominant framework, you will understand exactly what it is. The main reason why any or almost every young man would want to become an alpha male is success in women and access to the bedroom. But that's just one side of the coin. The second, less pleasant, is that, apart from these passing moments in bed, you will be in a very hostile and stressful environment. At the highest turnover, spending sick amounts of hours on staying at the top of the hierarchy, because the competition will be very strong there. And if you rest on your laurels, then you have a chance that over time you will crush your wealth, and the woman will help you with this, having access to your resources. If you choose this path at some point, or rather at some time in the bedroom, you'll wonder whether access to the female peritoneum is so valuable. If you're young, I'm aware that what you've just heard may sound like heresy, because for a young man who has testosterone, it seems to be the highest value. 20 years ago, I thought I was, and a woman is the greatest happiness I can ever have. But if you gain experience, it is very likely that you will come to the same conclusions as I do. I mean, there are other, more important goals in life than the pursuit of women. And the best part is, if you start to be successful, they will be interested in you. It's such an apparent paradox. The greatest success you'll have is when you don't focus on women and being an alpha male, but when you focus on yourself. On the margins, I'm going to say that the problem with alpha or narcissists or psychopaths with the same characteristics is that ladies have. There are instances of women who have already passed the school of life and know that they prefer a quiet mission to, in a sense, a loud-ass asshole. Because they got stuck on their own emotions, they couldn't control the alpha male or the narcissist, who was doing what he wanted with his life and his relationship. Besides, he betrayed them because he could. He manipulated them because he could. He had alternatives, so he didn't care about rejection, because it was he who had ladies orbiting around him, who were just waiting to stick to him in his coat and underwear. These ladies have burned themselves and now they want peace. Their problem often lies in the fact that although the reason already advises to stay away from the alpha males, because you can mate, it's still sometimes somewhere deep in the soul remember those hell-strong emotions that gave the unrestrained alpha or narcissist, and a little miss it, and that is stronger than them. Maybe they won't jump on that horse that fast anymore, but from time to time, they'll have thoughts like, what if? You need to know this, because the more party a woman used to be, the less likely she is to build a really lasting relationship, because of the emotional imprint that life has on her psyche and emotionality. Such women most often sincerely hate men. Because of the injuries they undoubtedly suffer, they project on all the men. They don't know they're in the same trap as guys with toxic women. It's exactly the same mechanism. They'll most often say that you're hurt or toxic, but in fact, they're already wounded or poisonous, and they project their suffering on everyone around. Therefore, understand women so that you do not hold hatred in you, because hatred will poison you.